Warning. You have never seen an episode of animation this fire.
Wow. Wow. All I gotta say, guys, is I am fresh off of the episode of 2B Hero X episode 7. I know I've missed out on making a video on episode 6. I'm sorry for that, but set of circumstances, a combination of me being sick and power outages, just kind of prevented that. And since that just happened, I wanted to give you guys my earliest thoughts on episode 7. I know I've been saying this every single video, but this is the best episode yet. They have been consistently topping every episode with the next. And how exactly they're going to keep this up for 24 episodes, I have no idea. Now, before we get into it, if you guys like 2B Hero X and you want to rant about it with me, I do have a public Discord link down in the description. So, without further ado, for more content like this, make sure to like, subscribe, and comment down below. So we start off this episode with the fallout of the previous one, after we saw Shang's death and the amount of grief and the amount of things that are going on in this episode are very interesting. Yonchan is obviously going through all sorts of mental things as we see him at Chang's funeral. We see everybody there, including Chang's father, and we have a couple of scenes of self-reflection here as Yonchan approaches Shang's father asking for help. This could obviously be for funds, figuring out who the real bad guy was, all sorts of different things. But what is clear is that they're not going after the shooter. This isn't a simple revenge after only the person who killed him, but actually revenge after the true culprit of this crime, the mastermind behind it all, the old ESoul, or the real ESoul. Now, we see a bunch of training and stuff from Yonchan as he is fighting against this machine that's supposed to replicate ESoul's defenses. And this is where some very interesting things kind of reveal in sequence. This episode revealed us a huge piece of information, which is the person who kidnapped the kid in a prior episode, the person who orchestrated Yonchan's death actually, and we'll get to all of that as we progress through this video. But what I gotta say is it is genuine insanity. Now, from boosting and bolstering trust values to lowering the opposing trust values to convincing ESoul to partake in a battle between the two, we really get what an episode of 2B Hero X could really be like, a battle between heroes, which sounds insane, but in actuality is one of the most visually pleasing things I've ever seen, from the animation to the actual story going on here. So practically skipping over all this like training montage and lead up to the actual fight, when it actually does happen, we are in for a treat. Why do I say that? Because we actually get to see the stark difference between the two ESoul's powers. So from what I've personally gathered in this episode, the difference between their powers is the original ESoul's power seems to be a sort of electronic manipulation that kind of goes into electromagnetism and is that side of electricity, like pure electrical power. While looking at the new ESoul Yonchan, we see more of a velocity thing going on. The electric powers are there, but they're more there to boost or bolster the speedster-esque abilities that Yonchan holds. And obviously this makes not only for an incredible clash, an incredible visual, but also is a stark resemblance to what we saw Nice go through. The actual difference and how people realized there was a huge change in Nice's persona when he changed, when we saw another person secretly become Nice. And that is just a interesting duality between the two. this story of longing, this story of wanting to be a hero from Nice's perspective, well, from ESoul's perspective, it's this form of inheritance, replacing the old ESoul, becoming the new ESoul, and being a story of revenge instead of a story of coming into oneself. Meaning that these stories in this series are going to be very diverse. But it also means we are coming to the end of Yonchan's story. This is going to be the last episode where Yonchan, aka ESoul, is going to be the main character. Meaning we are about to move on to the number 8 hero, the next in line. But before we do all that, what actually happened during this fight? So we start up this fight with seeing Yonchan being very aggressive. We see him being out for blood. It is a thing of him wanting ESoul gone. ESoul's the person responsible for killing his best friend. There's a bunch of self-loathing going on. There is all sorts of doubt, reason, and motivation going into this fight from all sides. ESoul needing to retain his identity, prove that he is a hero, prove that he is strong. And at the start of the fight, it feels like that's more what they're leaning towards, this tale of failure. But that is not what it was. We see the trust value manipulation come into account. Their trust values are going up and down. Who's in the lead? Who's currently stronger? We see ESoul's defenses standing up against Yonchan's attacks. We see him breaking through them a few times. And that's when trust value once again becomes a double-edged sword. We see ESoul's trust value plummeting because of manipulation from our Uncle Tan type character. The character who had owned the cafe had been manipulating social media, practically making people want to see ESoul's signature attack, wanting him off of the defensive, his trust values plummeting, forcing him into that position. The people on the other side of the comms practically telling him he has to, or else he's gonna lose this fight. He's gonna lose ESoul. He will no longer be that hero if he doesn't make this deciding win. At this point, ESoul and Yonchan being bruised, battered, and completely demolished when we see a clash of final attacks. Now, ESoul calls down a wave of lightning, almost like a sword of sorts. Imagine something similar to what Goku Black's Ki Scythe was. It is this weapon created of pure energy. And to do this, he has to use his defenses as a harness or capturing device to be able to direct this lightning, his final attack, his final flash. Or Yonchan, on the other hand, who is building up for one final strike. We see the stark resemblance between the two wanting to be heroes, having their own desires, their own beliefs. We see all of these things. And as both of their attacks come at each other, the lightning blade coming, striking down at Yonchan, Yonchan charging forward like how I could only describe a lightning night guy. One of the coolest spectacles or fight scenes I've seen in my life. As the determining factor is exactly that, determination. As we see Yonchan thinking back to when Chan was killed, thinking about how he hesitated because of the relationship between Yoonjin and Chan, and how he might have lost her, and that hesitation got his best friend killed, and not ever wanting to hesitate again, charging forward just in time to land a blow. We see this clash that's only equatable to Naruto versus Sasuke in the Valley of the End in the original Naruto. This huge explosion of lightning, this huge visual of destruction. As we look back to the guys in the chair, the two ESoul's trust values had merged, meaning that one of the ESouls had perished and the other had inherited their trust value. Here we really get the story to what was going on behind the scenes. Our Uncle Ten type character, the dude from the cafe, he had been the mastermind all along. We see him all the way back before Yonchan ever even worked for him. He is this sort of corporate overlord or person in high standing, throwing away Yonchan because he had no trust value. And then things happening, building a relationship with Yonchan, owning that cafe. We see him him actually being the one to hire the thugs to kidnap the kid, causing Yonchan to become a hero. We see him breaking those two thugs out of prison so that they could kill Chan. And that is a real mind breaker. This character, who's been on our side all along, on Yonchan's side all along, was actually the mastermind all along. We see that he actually intended for Yonchan to be the one killed, or if that maybe wasn't the case is still unclear, but we see him pulling the strings. If this was in favor of the original ESoul, or him seeing something in Yonchan that wasn't articulated in this episode, is still not very clear yet. And I feel like that's going to be a mystery for the long run until we get to the end of the season, because as we have very clearly seen, this episode is the last in Yonchan's story. And even though I have grown extremely attached to this character, and he is by far one of my favorite characters so far, I think there's still so much room, so many characters to go and build off of. And seeing this, what I would like to describe as a betrayal, is interesting. Because after this fight, we see Yonchan in Hero Tower. We see him taking ESoul's place. He enters the elevator now in his corporate overlord attire, I would like to say. As he says, the view looks different when you're at the top. And this really gets me thinking about this character. Is he some corporate overlord? Is he involved with the original ESoul? Or is he possibly connected to the Hero Association? There is a stark possibility that he is either the leader of the Hero Association, or some sort of higher up like a chairman or a shareholder, or something that gives him influence in the world of 2B Hero X. Now that we have out of the way everything that has happened in this episode, or at least all the important things in this episode, what do I think about it? As I said at the start of the video, this is not glazing. This is by far the best episode of 2B Hero X, and I cannot wait for it to be topped by the next one. This series is very consistent in quality. This episode was a massive explosion of information, huge reveals, and might actually mold the future of what type of character Yonchan would be, what type of character ESoul going forward would be. Because as we noted in the last video, it seems that Yonchan's ESoul was the person to kill Moon, meaning there might be a decisive battle between him and the commoner formerly known as Nice. So how do we look at this in a sense of progression? Now, the obvious way to go forward with these two characters is either a battle on that beach or a climatic battle at the end of the series. Has Yonchan lost all of his morals after killing ESoul, become a broken puppet for this corporation or this evil individual? Has he become a villain since then? What exactly has changed to lead to the scene on the beach? That is all still yet to be determined, and I cannot wait to see that unfold. And thus, I think that this episode not only was the best in animation, the best in fight scene, the best in storytelling, I just think this episode might have had the largest impact of any episode in 2B Hero X yet. Now, if you haven't yet, make sure to go watch this episode, or watch the entirety of 2B Hero X as it is out right now. I'm going to be doing an entire video that is going to include me rewatching it to give you the duality between Nice and ESoul, or now the commoner in ESoul. And I think this anime will hold many such interactions, needing to rewatch entire arcs, rewatching two different heroes arcs back to back to try and get a grasp of how the story interconnects with itself, how these characters interconnect with each other. And that is a very interesting point. But at this stage in the video, it's probably seeming like I am merely rambling. I know I've been talking really fast. I've not really had a script, guys, to follow. And that's because, as I said, I started this video directly after finishing the episode to keep all my opinions and my thoughts in check and right fresh. So if you disagree with anything I said in this video, or if I made some sort of mistake, feel free to correct me in the comments down below. but this video has gone on long enough. So if you enjoyed, make sure to hit that bell notification, hit that subscribe, and until next time, nerds, peace.